Okay, we are coming in on the home stretch of this guide. I'm going to talk about the four primary components, the four primary service modules that we offer to our customers. And the reason why I'm talking about this is because, these are just the four most common use cases we see coming up again and again and again when we speak to enterprises running on HubSpot that want to clean up their data set. The four different services are often a general HubSpot database cleanup, an ICP enrichment, inbound data enrichment, and ongoing enrichment automation to periodically re-enrich records and keep the database clean. So I'm going to just go through each of our service pages here. This is our internal documentation about how we think about how the service runs. It has a brief overview, a list of the milestones and subtasks, as well as the core deliverables, and then some custom add-ons that come up for each one. I'm only going to speak about the custom add-ons once because it's the same for pretty much every single service. But anyway, here we go. So the first and most common is a broad HubSpot cleanup. This is your entire database. It's usually a pretty light enrichment for every single record, especially if you have a large database. You don't want to do tons and tons of enrichments for all of your records because it will get quite expensive. Perhaps you would do more more enrichments, more properties enriched for your customer base in an ICP enrichment exercise, which I'll get to in the next video. For now, this is a broad enrichment. Common use cases here would include if you have, let's say, 200,000 companies in HubSpot, you want to start giving them to the sales team. Almost all of them are prospect accounts or people that you want to sell to, but they're not actively in an opportunity or a customer. So these companies, you can probably get away with 4 or 5, 6 different enrichments, some AI prompts, etc., and do a really good job cleaning them up, segmenting them, and servicing the top tier 1 accounts for the sales team, as well as for the marketing team. Do better segmentation. Like a really simple thing you can do is just use AI to categorize companies into different primary and secondary categories, or like industry, sub-industry, etc., based on how you define the market. In my last video, I believe maybe 2 videos ago in this series, when I spoke about validating and calibrating your enrichments before you do a broad enrichment of your whole data set, I showed that actual example for a customer where we wrote custom AI prompts for their categories and subcategories, which would have been impossible to do prior to the rise of OpenAI and large language models being accessible to folks like us. So super, super valuable, not so expensive per record. And this is going to basically take your entire database and clean it up. I'm going to, in this video, speak out the entire step-by-step process and everything available. And then in the subsequent service videos, because most of it's the same, I'll keep it shorter and just give you the differences. So the first step in any one of these projects is property mapping. This means identifying all of the account and or contact properties to enrich. And really before this, actually, it's defining your ICP, which this is part of it, but really you have to define your ICP and what information do you want to know about them? Like what properties do you care about? We identify all those, we map them all to HubSpot. I can show you, I think in prior videos, I showed the Google Sheet that we use to map every single property. That was a manual process. Now we're doing an automated sync to HubSpot. We can just sync down the properties with our app, but either way, you want to sync the properties. What's quite important here is defining property data types, output values, overwrite rules, sourcing methods, right? So each one of these property data type would mean like a text value, an integer value, multi-select, or a single select drop-down menu, things like that. And especially in the case of a multi-select or single select drop-down menu where you have like, let's say 5 different values that it could be, you have to make sure you define those, especially for something like custom AI industry segmentation. If you have like 5 specific industry name values in HubSpot for your industry property, and you're using AI to generate the output, you have to make sure that the output that you prompt the AI to give you is synced and it matches the output value options in HubSpot. If you have an industry category called tech and you output in the AI prompt technology, it will error. So this is quite important. Overwrite rules, I'm going to get to this later, but this is essentially discussing how do you want to handle existing information in HubSpot? Do you want to overwrite or not? There's a lot of different cases here and different logic to consider. So I'm going to skip that for now. Sourcing methods, we usually think through like, how do we want to source this data? Do we want to use clay integrations? If so, which one or which ones? Do we want to use external APIs? Do we want to scrape with ClayAgent or a custom web scraper? And then we internally will connect our enrichment engine to HubSpot for this. If you don't have it because you're not working with us, then you can skip this step. Next, we have the development phase. That's where we're going to export the subset of data, which I discussed a few videos ago around calibration. We build the enrichment workflows according to spec with our modular system, which I showed you in a prior video, and connect all the integrations, etc. And we run the test enrichments to calibrate the enrichments and AI prompts to ensure that it's accurate at least 90% per property, as best as we can, comparing to our manual enrichment of 20 records to see if our Clay version is matching the manual work, which we know is correct, right? And once that's all good, we're then going to back up HubSpot, like I mentioned, execute the bulk enrichment, make sure it's all good and standardized. And that's sort of the process from end to end. So that's the high level of the HubSpot cleanup and enrichment. I'm going to get into some of the more custom things. So custom add-ons that we'll offer include custom API integrations. There's oftentimes information that's not native to Clay, or you have your own API keys for some of the native Clay integrations, in which case we would connect those. We offer our customers one built-in or included custom API setup before we start charging per additional, because for some APIs it requires, well, for every API you have to go through the API docs, learn what it does. It's not like so hard in most cases, but it still takes extra time outside of the normal scope of work. That is included as an add-on. Number 2 is going to be dynamic data source evaluation and prioritization. I literally just posted on LinkedIn about this. And I also have a video in this series about this, but the general idea here is, you have multiple different options to source data. You enrich multiple different times for the same property and use AI to sort of evaluate which one is correct. The example I gave for the post on LinkedIn is, let's say you sell to franchises like Denny's or something like that, where they have a holding company of some sort. I actually think I used Outback Steakhouse. They're a subsidiary company or a child company of a larger holding company. So if you have Outback Steakhouse and HubSpot, company name Outback Steakhouse, website outback.com, whatever it is, the company LinkedIn URL, if you used ZoomInfo or Apollo or something like that in the past to enrich, and you gave ZoomInfo or Apollo the website to enrich, a lot of times these data providers mess it up and they return, when you want the company LinkedIn, they'll give you the holding company, the parent company. They have that in their database. So now when you go to Clay, you have your company name, website, and your company LinkedIn URL. Let's say you want to get company LinkedIn headcount, right? If you pass in the company LinkedIn URL to Clay, you're going to get the holding company's headcount, not Outback's headcount. And if you have that URL in your system, reps are going to open it and go to the wrong company. If you try and do a find people search with that company LinkedIn URL, you're going to get employees of the holding company, not Outback. So it causes a lot of problems. What we'll do, for example, if customers want this level of accuracy, this is more of a feature that will be common in an ICP enrichment for, it's more expensive, it's more tedious, but it's important if you want to get the data correct. We'll set up, for example, we'll enrich the existing URL we have in HubSpot. We'll then do a Clayagent search to find the company LinkedIn URL on Google using the company domain and company name. If that URL is different from the one they already have, we will enrich that. And we'll also enrich with the domain in HubSpot. So we have 3 different LinkedIn company enrichments going on, which is kind of crazy, but we pass all 3 of them into an AI prompt that looks at the existing LinkedIn enrichment, the company that was returned by the domain that they have, as well as the one that we found on Google, and the AI chooses the best result. So that is a multi-layered enrichment step, but it does a very good job choosing what's the right option. So we'll charge extra for that. The third one is the advanced rule-based enrichment logic. This is things like, one of our customers, for example, they have a product-led growth model, and they get a lot of customer data from the product itself, from the app, and that goes through Pendo, which is like a product. It's for like, well, actually, what does it do? Hold on. Here's Pendo. Pendo does analytics, guides, etc. It's essentially for product teams to better understand how users are interacting with their app. You can collect user data from here and pass it into your HubSpot CRM, for example. So anyone who gave their phone number or their email to Pendo, it's likely to be accurate much more than a random data provider. So if there's already a phone number on the contact property, especially of a product user, and it was last updated by Pendo, that would not be a number that you want to overwrite. Whereas if it was a ZoomInfo number, then you would want to overwrite that. So defining all these custom cases, even doing things like deciding how do we want to treat customer records versus prospects versus opportunities, how do we want to prioritize data? This is another custom thing. And then another option is multiple ICP segmentation. So this is building multiple different data models. If you have like 5 different ICP segments and you want to enrich each one differently, so we can take care of that. And a few things not listed here really quick are custom HubSpot objects, as well as doing more advanced entity association. So for example, the example of Outback and their holding company, we can figure out the holding company or the parent company of a subsidiary and then associate them together in a parent-child relationship in HubSpot for you. These things get more complicated. That's why they're custom add-ons that increase the price. But the base service is usually just this with a few things here and there. And it's very, very repeatable. So now I'm going to record videos speaking about the other services that we do. So anyway, this could be a sales pitch for what I offer, but it also is just a general outline of the process I recommend you follow if you're going to do this yourself. If you want to enrich HubSpot on your own, this is the like 3-phase process with all the tasks included. So go for it. Hopefully it works out. Although I will say, if you have more complex enrichment rules, like anything I just described down here, you'll likely need to know custom code, as the native clay enrichment is not feasible for that. So if you don't have that in-house, or you don't have the time or resources, whatever, reach out to me on LinkedIn and I can help you out.